Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. In this video, I'm going to talk about volume without progression equals no gains. Before I get into that topic, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. The best topic ideas I turn into videos just like this. All right, yesterday I talked about volume, I talked about Athlete X, and today I wanted to dive into the nuts and bolts, follow up a little bit, and show you guys what happens when you focus on volume but you don't focus on progression, okay? So the stress that lifting places upon your body will challenge your body. If the body is very good at adapting, if you go out and lift weights for 2 years and then you go out and run, you're going to notice that you get sore from running, even though you don't get as sore as much from lifting generally, right? So the body is very good. The body is adapted to lifting, but you have a new stress, and then maybe after a week, 3 weeks, whatever, your body adapts to running. You don't get as sore. The body is very good at adapting to specific demands. So when you introduce a new stimulus, okay, the body will take, maybe 3-4 weeks to adapt, and you'll start to be able to perform better with less soreness, less break-in issues. Now, what we're looking at here is volume without progression, and we're looking at normal training with progression. The volume person, we're going to say they're doing 35 sets, which is kind of high, but hey, it's volume training, so we're gonna use that as an example. And the normal trainee is going to use 20 sets. That's still a little bit higher than what I generally do. Generally, I'm at 15, 16 sets. But hey, whatever. When I was younger, I did 20 sets. So we're going to crank that up a little bit. The number doesn't really matter. The math is what really matters here. So the volume camp that believes that volume alone is going to build muscle, and believe me, there are guys like this out there. Whenever I talk about volume in any video, invariably I get a lot of, I'll say a lot of comments, which is maybe 10 to 15% of the comments about guys that are grinding it out in the gym with volume training but aren't focused on progression. They assure me they're making wonderful progress. I don't believe them because they're not getting stronger. Some of them might be making progress. Let me backtrack, because they are progressing, they just don't have a progression plan and they're not focused on progression. So I believe it's fair to say that some of them might be building muscle because they are progressing. They just don't realize they're progressing or aren't paying any attention. They're just kind of moving up in strength when they can. But to those that believe you can just train with volume and never get stronger, you can just train with volume, beat the heck out of your body. What's going to happen is, after about 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, your body's going to adapt to the stimulus. You might build muscle during that period of time because you're introducing something new. And it's reasonable to say that you're going to build muscle during that period of time. But once the body adapts, unless you introduce some form of progressive overload, more volume, reducing rest in between sets, which are both finite and limited, and your body's going to adapt to that as well. Unless you introduce progressive overload, you're not going to make any additional progress. Now, the problem with introducing progressive overload into the volume scheme is that not only are you getting stronger, you have intensity, you have more relative intensity, right? But you're also beating up your body with volume. Volume and heavy weight are not a good combination, not very sustainable. In the long run, they'll beat the living crap out of your body. In the short run, yes, you can do it. It might lead to, pushing yourself, overreaching, as we call it, and then you might have to pull back and relax the volume a little bit. So that's certainly possible. But in the long run, if you try to do this approach year in and year out, you're going to reach an overreaching stage and you're going to have to pull back. The body's either going to get beat up, you're going to get injured, or you're going to overreach and you're going to have to change this, okay? But this is assuming all you do is volume without progression, and this is progressive overload. So here's what we got. The volume training is 35 sets, and we're going to use some rather arbitrary numbers just to make the math simple. for 10 reps each on average, okay? Maybe they're doing 7, 8, 9 exercises. The average rep, they could be doing calf raises and, side laterals for 12 reps. Doesn't really matter. We're going to use the arbitrary 10 reps. And for our non-volume progression-focused lifter, 20 sets at 10 reps. Now, the volume guy has 350 reps, or girl. I'm not going to assume gender, or gender neutral, right? Okay. The progression guy has 200 reps. This is going to stay the same. Because they're using a lot of volume, they're probably going to have to cut back in weight. That's typically how it goes in the gym. You don't see the volume guy using as heavy weight as the progression guy, because the progression guy is focused on progression. Makes sense? Of course it does. So they're going to average 70 pounds per exercise. Where did I get that number from? I pulled it out of my ass. It's just an arbitrary number. But the progression guy is 100 pounds average per lift. This could be including squats, calf raises, dumbbell curls, side lateral raises. We're just using an average because you have the big compound movements, which might be around 225 for squats, 225 for bench, and then you might have side lateral raises, 25 or 30 or whatever. Then you throw in cable stuff. So it's just kind of an average for comparison. So the volume guy is averaging 70 pounds per rep, and the progression guy is 100 pounds per rep. Again, the volume guy is less because typically they have to do so much volume that they have to drop the weight to get that volume in. So initially, these two dudes or dudettes or gender neutral transient beings from the planet Mars or wherever the fuck you're from, 2,450 pounds of for the volume guy and 20,000 pounds for the progressive overload fanatic. All right, so that's going to stay the same over the course of 6 months for the volume guy. So again, after 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, that this person has adapted to that stress, and this is when no gains. That's the period of no gains. You're done. You're over. Unless you introduce some form of progressive overload or increasing challenge, your gains are done. Doesn't matter how much volume you're doing, your gains have topped off. They're done. There's nothing left to get out of this scheme. Now this person, this gender neutral individual, this who is not a snowflake, we'll just say they're not a snowflake. Theoretically, we're just going to pretend they're not a snowflake, okay? They could be a snowflake. I don't want to offend snowflakes. All right, so after 6 months, this person has progressed to 200 reps for an average of 150 pounds. They brought up their deadlift. They brought up their squat. They brought up their seated cable row. They brought up their barbell row, their dumbbell row. So their average weight per rep has gone up, and that's pretty reasonable over 6 months. But we're just going to say an arbitrary 150 pounds. It doesn't matter. It could be 130 per rep. They're up to 30,000 pounds. So they have increased the stress quite a bit in 6 months without increasing the volume. This volume is allowing this progressive overload to remain sustainable. Now, once they become an intermediate or late intermediate, they might have to adjust a few things. That's the nature of programming. You have to evolve a few things. You have to evolve variables. But just to dumb this down, you can see they have, after 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, they are still progressing. They are still adding weight to the average rep. Okay, the number of pounds per average rep is increasing consistently over a period of 6 months. And you know what? They are making consistent, solid gains. That is why you need progression with a reasonable volume rather than volume without progression. Any form of training you have that will stagnate, that does not introduce some form of additional challenge will stop. You will stop getting any progress out of it. You'll stop making any gains out of it. So this type of training is very good for a month, but after that, you need to reintroduce progressive overload. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. If you made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day. We're 5 seconds short of 10 minutes, and I won't get that extra ad revenue because I'm not really in this for ad revenue.